It's VikesNow, and we are 2 days away from Vikings-Broncos in prime time at, what do they call it now, Invesco, Mile Hyatt Invesco Field, or Mile Hyatt and Power Stadium. One of those things. I think it's Empower Field at Mile High. I'll get it right.
Soon to be Walmart Stadium.
Yep, that'll happen before too long. I've got Dakota Koep and Tyler Ireland. This week, we are going to chat about these Vikings and Broncos. Let's hop right into it. This team is ravaged by injuries, but we learned about a couple weeks ago, or I guess within the last 6 weeks, so that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We thought after Justin Jefferson was injured, everything was sunk. We were looking at draft positioning, Caleb Williams sweepstakes, Drake May. But now that's all firmly in the rear view. If the playoffs started today, the Vikings would probably pick 20th or something. That's very Viking-esque. But with all of these injuries, Dakota, I'm going to start with you. Two notable ones that have surfaced this week on top of Cousins and Jefferson and Davenport are Jordan Hicks compartment syndrome, out for at least 4 games, eligible to return against the Lions on Christmas Eve. And a Caleb Evans hasn't practiced this week, and barring a Hail Mary on today's injury report, probably won't play. So, ma'am, I'm going to ask you, who starts in place of Hicks and Evans and why?
Well, I feel like most of Vikings Twitter is obviously going to scream from the mountaintop, Anthony Barr, Anthony Barr. Although my concern personally is that we haven't heard yet whether he's going to be activated to the 35, oh my God, 53-man roster or not. And also, he's only been back with the Vikings for like a couple of days now, though granted, Josh Dobbs obviously made it seem like anybody can hop into a football game and be phenomenal, but the linebacker position and the quarterback position, very different. And to my knowledge, Anthony Barr is not a rocket scientist. To me, I think the obvious choice here is obviously giving Ivan Pace some more reps, giving him a little bit more of a leadership position on that defensive line. Excuse me. And obviously, he's already been phenomenal all season. I also have to hope that, Asamoah is good to go. I know that he's been on the injury report so far this week. But I mean, it's not like we're without anybody. We've got Dye, we've got Carter II, we've got Vigil. I'm sure someone is going to step up, but I would not be surprised if we hear Ivan Pace's name said way more this Sunday. In regards to Evan, I mean, we've also got talent up the wazoo in the cornerback room. Me personally, I'm hoping that Blackmon it steps up. I'm also very excited about Najee Thompson. I've been really, really excited for him to get more reps in there. I was a fan of him when he was drafted by us. Overall, though, I think it's also going to come down to kind of how Flores plays the safeties. Mm-hmm. We've seen them in kind of like this shifting position so far. We'll see them in the backfield. We'll see Brian Flores never fails to disappoint when it comes to how he plays the safeties. And so I feel like, Hitman and my favorite Cam Bynum, how they play is going to actively be a big part of the hole that Caleb Evans gives in our defense.
Tyler, Brian Flores said about Anthony Barr's arrival that he was familiar with his tape. He's been around for quite some time, since the beginning of the Mike Zimmer era, in fact. He said it will be up to Barr to, carve his role out this week, how quickly he can get acclimated. So at linebacker in the stead of Hicks and at Evans, who gets the most snaps, sir?
Yeah, Brian Asamoah is listed as the starting inside linebacker alongside Ivan Pace Jr. He is dealing with a bit of an ankle injury. He's limited at practice as of now. If he's ready to go, he's going to be out there. If not, it's going to be a ton of Troy Dye, who got some snaps at the tail end of last week's game. I don't see Nick Vigil or Anthony Barr doing all that much this week. They're both still kind of learning the ropes of this defense. We're also going to see a ton of Andrew Booth Jr. in place of a Caleb Evans and a ton of Josh Metellus, because the Vikings were pretty reliant on a 5-1-5 defense against San Francisco and Green Bay, where they had kind of Metellus acting as the quasi linebacker there. So keep an eye on him as well. But I'd expect Booth and Asamoah, if he's ready to go, both of those guys to sort of step up here.
So you're saying on the first drive, offensive possession for the Broncos, it will be Byron Murphy and Andrew Booth guarding Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy? Your prediction?
Pretty much, yeah. Him. Yeah, so it'd be Murphy, Booth, and Blackman out there.
Gotcha. Here's my favorite question of the show. Not that it's unheard of that the Vikings would be an underdog. In fact, if they win this week, they will be the first team since the Tim Tebow Broncos to win 5 straight games as underdogs, if that can be believed. But I got to ask you, Dakota, why are the Vikings 2.5-point underdogs to a team that is 4-5?
I get a lot of shit from a lot of my NFL friends and even from my grandparents that that the Vikings have this bias in the media, and I do personally believe that, and like not, conspiracy level reason, but I do see that there is some skepticism in the media when it comes to Minnesota Vikings. I mean, when you consider the loss at the Giants, the 2017-2018 season, and of course, because his name has been brought up all over Twitter lately, talk about Blair Walsh with the Seahawks game. I think that the media has come to expect, and even the fan base has come to expect, this sort of, the Vikings will climb the highest mountain, but they will always fall the hardest. And so I think that there is always going to be that mentality, whether it's within the fans, within the media, within the people who place bets, that we are going to fall. Ironically, however, you have to consider the fact that ESPN's matchup predictor actually has the Vikings winning. We have a 57.4% chance of winning per ESPN. You also have to consider that, yes, the Broncos have had some pretty big wins against the Chiefs and now against the Bills. However, they are 2-3 at home, whereas we are 4-1 away, which is really interesting thing to say when you consider the atmosphere of US Bank Stadium, that we have a better record away than we do at home. But I mean, hey, whatever works. But ultimately, I really think it just has to come down to the fact that, yes, Russell Wilson does look good. Maybe Sean Payton has whipped him into shape, but never doubt the hatred that the Minnesota Vikings have for Sean Payton.
Tyler, the Vikings are 4-9 in AFC West road games in the last 25 years. That's part of my paranoia for this week, is anytime I flip on the television and it's Vikings at the Chiefs or the Chargers or Broncos, or Raiders, I'm always like, oh God, here we go. Natural grass ain't going to go well. It's probably in the 3:00 window. For some reason, that's kryptonite. But only thing other than that, which is, I don't know if Vegas cares about that I can gather, is they expect Josh Dobbs to come back to this stratosphere and maybe have a pumpkin game. What else, or is that just the reason? Why are the Broncos favored by almost a field goal?
I think you just have to give the Broncos a lot of credit for the last 4 games. These last 4 games, they've only allowed 17 points per game. 2 of those games came against Patrick Mahomes, one of them against Josh Allen, and then there's Jordan Love. We won't talk about that. But their defense is playing well at the right time. They hired Vance Joseph again this offseason. So they moved on from Ejiro Avero. I probably botched his name, but it took them a little bit to sort of get familiar with that defense. And it's similar to the Vikings, where those first few weeks under Flores weren't the greatest, but they're improving over the course of the year. As for the offensive side of the ball, they're average. Like, Sean Payton has them playing at an average level with Russell Wilson and, Sutton, Judy. It's not a bad offense. They're just kind of conservative because they have to be, but they're at least good enough to where if they're executing well, that they could probably pull off the win. The issue is they have to play a clean game. The Broncos are one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. I believe they're bottom 4. And then Minnesota is the least penalized team. And I'm not sure Vegas, how much they took that into account. But if the Broncos are able to just play a clean football game, this could be a lot closer than people realize, coming off a big win against Buffalo.
A couple more things here. The strange part on the Vegas point spread for me is that the Vikings, depending on which metric you want to use, whether it's EPA per play or DVOA, they are markedly a better football team. In DVOA, the Broncos are like 25th or 26th, 17th ranked offense, 32nd ranked defense, inflated by that 70-point burger. And the Vikings are right there in the top 14 of DVOA, and then I think top 11 overall of EPA per play. So that's why I think this should have been a pick 'em when it came to the line or the point spread, but I mean, I don't work for Vegas. So that really had me thinking. And then the other note, and I don't want to take anything away from the Broncos winning streak, but that Bills game, the Bills played buffoonishly and they had 4 turnovers. And then when the game-winning kick was on the line, the Broncos wanted to lose in Vikings-esque fashion. And then there were, in Vikings-esque fashion, too many men on the field for the Bills. So they were gift-wrapped a win. All the power to them. The Vikings know a thing or two about gift-wrapped wins regarding the Bills. But I don't think this win streak is the stuff of legends. They got off the schneid by beating the Chiefs for the first time since 2015. Good for them. But the point spread, it does have me a little curious. But I'll totally reverse what I just said when we get to predictions here in about 3 minutes. But I'm going to ask you one final thing before predictions, Dakota. Are you personally, the queen of positivity in Viking land, are you still on eggshells that the Vikings' recent success is too good to be true?
I mean, are you really a true Vikings fan if you're not a little bit nervous? I mean, let's be here. Like I said, in total Vikings fashion, almost every single year that we think like, yes, this is our year, we somehow fail in the most heart-wrenching way that no one thought was possible. To me, I think these next 2 games are really going to be a little, I don't want to say cakewalk because I feel like that, knock on wood, I feel like that's jinxing us a little bit. Mm-hmm. However, we have the Broncos, we have the Bears. Yes, the Broncos, the last couple of weeks, their defense has limited their opponent's offense to about 16 points per game. The Bears are the Bears. They're having their own issues. We don't need to get into that. It's the Bears. I think if we can get through these next 2 games, specifically with JJ coming back, I think we can get through these next 2 games, minimal injuries. We've got a bye week. We've got a late bye week, which if you look at the Lions, they just had their bye week. They still got a whole chunk of season left. I think we're in a prime position to really utilize this bye week to recover from all these injuries and ultimately kind of maybe go where no Vikings team has ever gone before. I personally, looking at the Lions, I think they're beatable. I do, especially looking at the Chargers-Lions game. There were a lot of mistakes that beginning of the season Lions would not have made. Am I optimistic? Absolutely. I'm the queen of positivity. Am I walking on eggshells a little bit? Yes, absolutely. We can't, not talk about the fact that these injuries are still an issue. We can't talk about that. We have to talk about the fact that Davenport has been on and off the injury list. Justin Jefferson, yeah, he looks good, but I mean, a hamstring injury, if it's tweaked again, could be even worse. So I think it all is going to come down to how we play these next 2 games and, sort of how we recuperate and who comes back from the bye week fully healthy and ready to go.
I've said it every episode, and I will continue to say it every episode until Christmas Eve. All the Vikings have to do is stay within 2 games of the Lions in the NFC North standings, and then they control their fate, starting with a home game on Christmas Eve afternoon, and then 2 weeks later at the Lions to end the season that, in theory, could be for all the marbles in the NFC North. So that's all they got to do. They got to just keep pace with the Lions, who have an easy schedule. Tyler, eggshells for you. Do you think, all right, the bottom's probably going to fall out, Dobbs is going to just become a mid, or do you not have the eggshell sensation?
I'm a lot more confident in the Vikings offense than I was last week. Last week, I thought we were going to lose to a good Saints defense. I did not expect Josh Dobbs to go scorched earth against what was, a top 10 defense in DVOA heading into that week. So, am I a little bit nervous? Yes, but I'm a lot more confident now than I was last week. With the return of Osborne and soon Jefferson, we'll see how much Dobbs improves or if he's in line for regression just because he's been playing extraordinary the past 2 weeks. But so far, it's been so good for Dobbs.
So I will also preface this that if Dobbs has a mundane game on Sunday night or a poor game, he's allowed to do that. Quarterbacks have that. Kirk has about 1 or 1.5 per season, and even the elites will fire up a game that makes you scratch your head. So I think in order for us to say, well, that Dobbs thing was fun for 2 games, it would have to be doldrums for about 2 or 3 straight games, and then we'd be like, this is why the Browns didn't want the guy, or this is why the Cardinals traded him. I don't think one bad game or a couple interceptions in a loss would completely undo him. So let's do predictions. I'm going to start because I want us to hopefully end on a positive note. I am paranoid. I do think that I don't think this team is quite good enough to win 6 in a row and then 7 in a row against the Bears and then 8 in a row against the Raiders, because I do think, barring a lot more injuries, maybe to Hawkinson or something, that they will beat the Bears on Monday Night Football in those sweet ass uniforms and then hopefully take down the Raiders. So I think this is a temporary hiccup. I think they lose 27-24 because the Broncos are a little bit hot, and I think it would make more sense in hindsight that the Vikings win streak was interrupted by Sean Payton, and then they got their poop in a group, go beat the Bears, go beat the Raiders, and then see how the chips fall with Joe Burrow or Jake Browning, whoever that may be in Cincinnati. So regrettably, I am the party pooper this week. I think Tyler was last week. I've got the Broncos by 3. Dakota, what say you? Prediction.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to say in regards to Josh Dobbs, I think a lot of people nowadays in like any aspect of life are realizing just how much encouragement and positivity really can motivate an individual. I mean, we're seeing it with like gentle parenting and so on and so forth. And I think, the fact that he came to Minnesota and immediately had jerseys on in the store, the team store, automatically had free lunches, which apparently is revolutionary. I think that positivity and the way that he's being coached is a huge chunk of why he's still playing good. I think that we can continue to this win streak as long as we keep our hands on the ball. It's miraculous that we're doing this so well so far this season. And of course, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it. And can our defense continue to make opportunities to turn over the ball? We've seen this shift over the last couple of games where our offense suddenly knows how to hold on to the ball again. I think we're like 5-1 since KOC started hitting them with a really big stick. I don't know what he was doing, but you know what? Kudos to him. It seemed to work. And clearly, I think as long as our defense is the one that creates the turnovers, not the offense, I really think that ultimately that is our key to success here. And again, going off of what Tyler said, the penalties, I believe in our defense's ability to keep their hands to themselves. However, I mean, with that hands to the face call on Danielle Hunter, I don't want to say that the refs have any sort of bias, but we have been seeing this season that the refs maybe should get their prescription checked. However, of course, staying with the true Minnesota Vikings Queen in positivity fashion, I have us winning 24-14. Again, they're 2-3 at home. We're 4-1 on the road. I think we'll extend our win streak to 6.
Wonderful. Tyler, take us off air. Vikings, Broncos predictions, Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I have the Vikings winning 20-16. Broncos defense has been pretty good, but last week I thought, hey, Saints defense was pretty good. They'll hold us off and we'll lose, but I think the Vikings can score 20 on the Broncos and eke out with a win.
Wonderful. All right, give me your socials, Dakota, please.
So I can be found on TikTok and Instagram at Western Dakota. Oh my gosh. I can be found on Instagram and TikTok at Western Dakota, and I can be found on Twitter at both Western Dakota and Kirk's Minivan.
Tyler, your Twitter and the places where you write.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tyler Ireland NFL, and then I write for Daily Norseman and Purple PTSD, so you can find some of my writing there.
Fantastic. We will speak this group of 3 in 1 week to ramp up for Monday Night Football. That was not flexed out. The Vikings will wear their Purple People Eater uniforms, hopefully riding a 6-game win streak. Hopefully this son of a bitch is incorrect. And then they'll really be in the driver's seat if they're not already. We'll talk to you guys next Friday or Saturday or so. Okay.
Sounds good. See you later, Dustin.
All right. Take it easy.
All right. Later.
Later.